You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is women with purpose and vitality in their senior years. Women tend to outlive their menfolk, so they may at some stage be faced with a scenario of living without a partner or without the team they had been used to. How can women stay independent and resilient in their golden years and in the face of big changes? My special guest today is Allison McCune-Davis, a traditional naturopath and working mum of 5. She's the author of the book 60 is a Good Start, A Powerful Body, A Purposeful Life, and a Plan to Make It Happen. She inspires women to embrace aging as a time of opportunity, vitality, and purpose. And her motto is feel good, look good, have fun. I really like that book. Oh, I know. That sounds awesome. Well, I'm in your category.
Yay.
I'm 66. Woo.
Okay, good.
But
Well, I'll be 65 in December, so we're not too
oh,
far.
we're close, yes. I feel like it's an ever-present now. I don't actually have a concept of myself as aging. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think, it may be kind of an illusion, but I just feel like it's always now. Um,
hmm hmm I think it's just
yeah,
the number that kind of,
yeah,
freaked me out there. Just the numbers, think 60 and then, thinking 70, thinking 80. It's just not that I feel whatever I
yeah,
think that number represents. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like part of our society and preconceived ideas and how we should be. Um, but let's get into you and how did you integrate your work as a TV film producer with naturopathy? How did those two things come together in your life?
Well, I studied it in college, and then I was a producer in San Antonio, Texas for PBS for a while, and then I moved to LA and I worked there in different capacities for about 8 years before I moved back to my home state of Oklahoma and married my husband and had 5 kids. That was in my mid 30s. So I think I would have to answer that question, and it's sort of a long story, but it really kind of integrates in the book because as a producer, one of the top skills is the ability to plan and organize. You're taking something from the very beginning to the very end. And in one case, I was producing out in LA a series for PBS. We were shooting 26 shows, 30-minute shows, and we were shooting them sort of all at the same time. So for shows, number 4, number 9, number 13, number 22, we interviewed this one person. Well, we wanted to get the interview done for all the shows in that one time. So we're talk about serious planning that was necessary, much less just needing to do that for a TV production anyway. And then when I started having kids, I ended up homeschooling for 20 years, which also really required some serious organization and planning. And it was during that time when my health kind of took a dive after having child number 3 and not paying good enough attention to
Yeah,
my health.
a lot of stress as well.
Y- Yeah, I had my third at 42. I started late. I was 37 with the first one. And then just, adrenal fatigue and bad gut health and all this stuff kind of just crashed in my
Yeah,
early
yeah.
40s.
A lot of people don't realize how stressful it is to the body, how taxing and how demanding on resources it is just to be pregnant,
Yes,
let
it
alone
is.
to have one child after another, because they
Yes,
steal your minerals. So
they
my
do.
my business is Elektra Magnesium, and we produce magnesium topically, so you can absorb it through your skin,
hmm
because when we're under stress, we don't digest very well. And so it's a much better way to supplement with
Hmm.
magnesium, which is in short supply when we're under stress because we pee it out faster. So
Yeah.
we use it up faster. And then you've got your baby stealing stealing your
Right.
minerals out of your
Right. Right.
bones. You know,
Right.
you can get wiggly teeth that way. But
Right.
so a lot of um, taxing energy is on the system when you're pregnant, and then you really need time to recover. But it's often the case where you don't mean to, but whoops, pregnant again.
Right. Right.
Actually happened to me because I was weaning my first child and didn't realize that you can't half wean because the fertility comes back, which,
Right.
and so it's one after the other. If, it is a little bit of a protection if you're just full on demand
Right.
breastfeeding, but
Yes, it is. Hmm.
but
Yeah.
accidents can happen.
Right. For sure. Yeah, well, and so that was when I really got deep into natural health. But I probably a decade earlier I vividly remember being 30 and in my bathroom, I lived in LA. I was taking a pill every day. It was a birth control pill. And all of a sudden, one day I looked in the mirror and I was like, what is in this pill that I am taking every single day of my life? I
Mm.
didn't know. I hadn't researched it. So that was sort of my first kind of thing of just
Questioning, yeah.
questioning,
Mm.
what is this? What am I doing? And I actually quit taking it pretty soon after that. But but then, the health declined then in my early 40s, and I had when I was in LA, I had experienced going to a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. That was kind of my father was a surgeon. So I grew up in a very medical
Medical family.
family.
Yeah.
And, but, America is a medical country. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we all kind of, it wasn't that much different from my friends, I don't think.
And Australia's
So,
not far behind.
yeah. And so when I was out in LA, I had this issue, and this friend was like, "Oh, you got to go see my traditional Chinese medicine doctor." I thought, oh, my father would flip his lid if he knew I was doing that. But the guy fixed what I had going on. And so, and that was just through herbs and diet,
Plant medicine.
not
Oh,
any kind of
yeah.
medicine or even over the counter. So that was my first experience into natural health. And then it just kind of continued on, during my 40s and 50s. And so, but back to what does the TV production have to do with the naturopathy?
Yeah.
When I wrote the book, I was like, bringing those two periods of time of real organization and planning, I was like, I can spit all this information out to women in the second half of life. I figure that's kind of my target market with this book. But if there's not a plan to execute on it, to make the difference, to be able to move that needle, then, what's the point? We can ingest all this information, but how can I help women make the change?
How
So
to
there's a
apply the
plan.
theory.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's a planner that you can also buy with the book if you want that. And the book leads to what I call the 60-day dare. And all of this is sort of the combination of the natural health that I've studied over the years, but the main thing are the longevity principles that I found the commonalities between all the blue zones, some big Harvard studies with hundreds of thousands of women, some cancer studies with women that had there's a book called Radical Remission. I don't know if you've heard of that. In it meaning radical meaning these cancer patients were not expected to have a good outcome, but they did. And
Mm.
it's all about the lifestyle habits,
I hear a lot of
they're
stories like
very
that.
similar to just the general longevity habits, which are all just like the basic fundamentals. So, all of those, when I kind of put them all together, they fell into three categories that I call body work, brain work, and world work.
Mhm.
And so I kind of come up with the big five in each of those. And my goal is to get people to pick one from each category and I can tell you what the categories are about, and then do that for 60 days. Because as Dr. Caroline Leaf tells us, she's that neuroscientist, she's written like 20 books. I love her. But she looked in the microscope at the nerve cells in the brain and can literally see habit formation, which at least takes 60 days. So 60 is a good start. Well, I wrote the book when I was 60. It's to women in the second half of life, but it's also 60 days, the minimum needed to form a new habit. Little habits, we make
Yeah.
little baby steps to get to those habits that
How
we
to
want.
how to change the old programs. Habits are just
Yes.
programs
Yeah,
that,
they are.
like, I liken it in an analogy to an LP record, the old vinyls where the needle is in the groove,
The
and
groove
if it's a
in the
deep,
brain.
yeah, if it's a deep groove or a scratch, the needle gets
Right.
stuck in there, right?
Yes, yes,
Not
yes.
moving forward.
Right, right. So hopefully, and I've also got an online program. If I always say people should do this with a friend or a group of friends, or if you want to do it with my online program, you can. We're in the middle of one right now. But it just we need accountability to for those kind of changes to make in our life because
Mm.
I think about these, us women in this second half of life, and we spent 30 years about either raising kids, and that's exhausting. You're nurturing, that's our nature. We
Yeah.
nurture, we
It's a
give,
it's a
give.
treadmill. It's a treadmill. It's
Yes,
just
it is.
it's a routine from morning to evening, and
Yes.
you're just constantly trying to beat the clock to
Just
get
and
to get
survive. You're
stuff
just
done.
surviving. Yeah. And so, women are doing that, or maybe they were in a career, or maybe if they didn't have kids, they were in a heavy duty career, for let's say 30 years that they just dedicated their life to. And 60 is a very transformational time for women. It is for me, when I turned 60, the key word was restless. I was just all of a sudden restless with, oh my gosh, I'm 60. What am I doing with my life? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? What I was meant to do? And I loved what I was doing. I was helping women with natural health, kind of things, but I still needed something different. I needed a change.
Is
And
that because your brain is used to planning in your career in TV and
yeah,
television? You need to be good at organizing, planning
yeah.
ahead, putting all the bits together, pattern recognition. So that's probably why you worked on a system to
Mhm.
follow. And we need new systems because different stages of life are very, very different. So we
Mhm.
go through that 20s and 30s very much doing,
Yep.
manifesting, getting out there, learning at the same time. It's like a big learning curve. And, up to 20, we're pretty much unconscious.
Right.
That, and
Definitely.
and so you get to your 40s and you're going, oh, things are going really well. Finally, I'm actually achieving goals and joining together all the things that I've learned and applying them. And I feel like powerful as a woman in my life, pulling all that information together. And then you hit menopause around 50s and things change again. And
Yep.
so you constantly have to recalibrate almost like every 10 years. You've got to
Yes.
like reorganize yourself to this
Yes.
new environment, this new thing the body's going through. So tell us the how menopause affects women mainly. What are the biggest changes that they face and what they have to deal with, the good and the bad?
I mean, I think the main things are, well, hormones, of course. There's a saying in the natural health world, if your hormones aren't balanced, nothing else works. So that's like the first thing to focus on, if that's not balanced. And I always recommend going to a naturopath doctor or integrative or there's just new names now, but a natural doctor because they are looking at things that a traditional medical doctor is just not looking at. And
It's
also,
environment and nutrition, isn't it? Sorry to
yes,
interrupt, but
it
that's what it's
is.
all about. It's
Yeah,
what you put in your mouth and what you surround yourself in.
Yes, yes, completely. But if they're going to do some lab testing, those kind of doctors, they don't want you just within the normal range. They want you in a narrower, optimized range. So they're going to really work to get, hormones in their right place. So it's figuring that out. Bone health is huge.
Mhm.
Bone density is so important. And so I really think we have to be strength training. I mean, we have to be lifting weights. We need that bone density and not, the osteoporosis, osteopenia, which is the before osteoporosis, so that our bones are strong and we have those muscles. My mother died when she was 83 in 2018. In the last few years of her life, she was always fit and thin, but she didn't really work out. And, the last few years of her life, her muscles just literally deteriorated.
Yeah.
I think they just went to nothing. She was in a
Mm.
wheelchair the last few years, and
Waste,
gosh,
waste, wastage. Yeah,
yeah,
wasting, muscle
yes,
wasting.
yes, yes. And so I think we really have to pay attention to that, which includes eating protein. And
Yes.
to me, it's hard to
Co-
eat protein. I mean, enough as much as they say we should be eating,
yeah.
but yeah, and it has to be good. Yes, of course.
Yes,
Like
yes.
beef needs to be the
Hormone free
grass-fed,
and grass
hormone-free.
fed.
Absolutely. hmm Yeah. So all of that needs to be really the good stuff. And, people are like, well, it's expensive. No, it's more expensive to be sick. It just is,
Uh, Well, yeah, interesting you should say that because just recently I've decided to embark on a ketogenic diet with my husband, mainly for him because he's having an ulcer on his leg
Mhm.
and he couldn't get rid of it. It's slow, his body went into a hyper-inflammatory phase.
Mm.
And all the research I've done, kind of those roads started to lead me to diet and having the good protein and fats and actually avoiding the carbs.
Yeah.
Not that we'd already cut out grains,
Yeah.
so a more little bit more Paleolithic, but he was still craving sweet tastes like, oh, that squeezed juice that's full of vitamins. This justification why I'm having this sweet thing, right? So I thought,
Right.
okay, we're gonna like cut down those carbs to cut down the inflammation because the carbs
Yeah.
were obviously causing his body to go into a hyper-inflammatory phase. And probably he could tolerate it when he was much younger, but men also go through these stages of aging where they can't do the same thing they always did. Women can't do the same things they
No.
always did.
Yeah,
We
it's true.
we have to adapt to those
hmm
new stages of life. So I'm finding it interesting myself being on this diet. My weight isn't changing. He lost 15 kilos in 2 months.
Wow.
But my weight's been very stable, but I didn't have the weight to lose in the first
hmm
place. So, your body kind of adjusts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does what it needs to do
Yeah.
in the right circumstances, under the right conditions.
Absolutely.
It works the way it needs to. We have to have faith that it has a wisdom, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The body heals and we just have to get out of the way. It was
Right.
designed to heal. I mean, we
Yeah.
see that with a cut, it heals. We just have to either get out of the way or do things with what I think, what God gave us, herbs and, natural substances to help heal it sometimes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
of
I like the
course,
bitter herbs too. They're
hmm
good for digestion and
hmm
support the liver and
hmm
help you make bile, which you need to break down the fats. And we need the fats. Like half
we
the
do.
brain is made of cholesterol
We
fat.
do.
That,
I was just about to talk
yeah.
about, our
Yeah.
brain
Oh
health.
yeah,
We
go ahead.
do.
Yeah, talk about fat.
Well, and what I was just going to say about that was how critical sleep is.
Mm.
Sleep is, I mean, hopefully we're getting like 7 to 9 hours. That's what the word is that we should be getting every night. I have this Aura ring. Have you tried the Aura ring yet?
No, tell us about it. Is
It's
it,
so great.
yeah?
I've tried a lot of different things, but this is my favorite. I've tried, like the Lumen or the continuous glucose monitor to check your blood sugar, like minute by minute.
Have you tried magnesium?
Oh yeah. Oh, I take it every day. And I take Epsom salt baths. I've taken Epsom salt baths 3 times a week for probably 20 years. So yes.
That's magnesium sulfate. Yeah, so that's a very good cheap alternative for people, much better than tablets or powders. But even better than that's magnesium chloride, because the chloride's nicer on the skin than the
Hmm.
sulfate. The magnesium sulfate has way too much sulfate, which tends to dry out the skin and make it feel irritable and itchy because it takes the good oils out.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, if there's nothing else available and it's very cheap,
Yeah.
it's much better than popping pills because they've
Right.
got fillers and binders, and it's very difficult to digest and absorb all the magnesium in that supplement. As it goes through the digestive system, the gut wall's very sensitive. It can only
Hmm.
take what's in natural spring water and food. That concentration, studies have shown, is the optimal amount to get across the gut wall to the interior of the body. So it's very, very interesting. Magnesium chloride is the salt form that doesn't need any digestion. So you just
Hmm.
absorb it into cells, and the skin is a great reservoir because it's such a large organ. So we can
Right.
use it optimally to increase the absorption of magnesium as is needed, and the body never overdoses itself that way. It's sits inside the epidermis until the body takes it up in its own wisdom. There you go,
Hmm.
the
I love
wisdom
it.
of the body.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that helps sleep, by the way.
Yes, yes. So yes, sleep. Oh, and the Aura Ring. Yeah, there's an app and it tracks your sleep. It tracks your deep sleep, your REM sleep, your light sleep. It also shows your stress level during the day, which is pretty interesting. You know,
Yeah, wow.
I mean, even for me, like a very engaged conversation with somebody will show as stress. Of course, there's good stress and bad stress.
Hmm.
And so, but what it's enlightened me on is how I'm probably moving too fast most of the time. And just, I mean, that's my natural state, but it's important to just kind of stop and slow down, like periodically, and just have some restorative moments. So it's interesting on that level too.
The pauses in
Hmm.
between. So we have a slogan: relax, recharge, recover. And
Yes.
and the body goes in waves and cycles, just like the ocean waves. You know, there's an ebb and a flow. You breathe in, you breathe out. Everything is undulating in life.
Hmm.
Nothing is a
Hmm.
straight line or constant. So we
Hmm.
kind of have to move with those waves, don't we?
Right. And then, of course, the emotional health, I mean, so in my book, the three categories, the body work, brain work, and world work. So the body work, we're talking about what are we eating, what are we drinking, water wise, how are we moving our body, how are we sleeping, and deep breathing too.
Yeah.
For the brain work, it's, you know, you have options. You're going to pick one thing from each of these to do for those 60 days in the 60-day dare. And in the brain work, it's things like writing, journaling. Maybe there's trauma that still needs to be dealt with. I mean, it could have been something that just happened recently, or it could have been something from,
A
childhood or something
long
that
time
just
ago.
never
Yep.
was, like just journaling is a great start to that. Reading uplifting material. And I like to read a real book, but so like 10 pages a day of something nonfiction, because whatever's going in our eyes and ears,
Yeah.
we want to be uplifted. Otherwise, we're just going to come down. I mean,
We have
I
to stay hopeful about everything, that there's
absolutely.
always a solution, no matter what the problem. Somehow, somewhere, there's a solution, and we can find it. And this is what you're doing, helping people to hone this is the way I see it, their intuitive capacity to find that right pathway that's
Yes.
ideal,
Yes.
that helps them come back to balance
Mm-hmm.
and then feel empowered that way and confident.
Mm-hmm.
So in your golden years, let's call them that, after menopause, so I went through mine, more than 15 years ago. I'm feeling really good now. I went through a lot of upset trauma. I had severe heart arrhythmias around 50, um, with Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, all from excessive stress. I was a magazine publisher. I had to sometimes do overnight without sleep to get to print on time. They don't call them deadlines for nothing, right?
Right,
They
right,
they, they
right.
nearly
Ain't that the truth?
caused me to be dead. Um,
Right.
and that kind of intensive stress wears the adrenals out. So first
Yeah.
the thyroid, then the adrenals get exhausted. I was a big mess. I had massive magnesium crash, which is one of the things that led me into what I'm currently doing.
Hmm.
And I felt really lost, at that stage. But there was something inside me, that little spark that I know I can find my way out. You have to believe in yourself to some extent, no matter what's
Yes.
happening around you,
Yeah.
to keep going and to keep looking and not close the doors and follow the little voice and the little prompts and the little someone
Hmm.
says something and it rings a bell, like keep opening up your horizon to
Yeah.
get the right information in. Anyway, something led me to on the right path, and now I feel better than ever now. I feel like my age actually reversed, and I got a rejuvenation from what I
Yeah.
was doing and an extra sense of empowerment. But I'm starting to think now, well, what if I have another 30 years or so ahead of me or more? Maybe, hopefully.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then what happens if I'm at some stage not with my partner anymore and I'm by myself, which a lot of women
Yeah.
face that
Yeah.
kind of 30, 50 years or however long you had a particular lifestyle with someone and suddenly it's all the rug's pulled out from under you.
Hmm.
How do you find your feet again in your senior years when you've been used to this really old, comfortable shoe habit?
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, that's one of the things. It's not my case right now. I've still got two kids at home. My husband's here. My older three are moved out. But, for so many, loneliness is a thing. An empty nest is a thing. And so we get to this point in this life. It could be 50, it could be 70, 60, whatever it is. And so in world work, the main thing is purpose. It's purpose in relationships. And so, number one, I think we have to find that new purpose. And that is one of if a person doesn't know, I have so many friends now, and this is how I was. When I turned 60, I was like, what am I doing? What am I going to do for the next decade? I needed something I could sink my teeth into and
Yep.
be excited about when I woke up in the morning. And I
Yep.
wasn't when I kind of was at 60. And so I really had to go on this like 7 month little searching
You don't
mode.
want to be bored.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, we have purpose, I think, till we die, whether it's whether we're helping one person or 1,000 people, whatever it is. What boggles my mind so much is that everyone in the history of the world is different. We are like nobody's the same in the history of the
No.
world, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? And
Yeah.
so,
The world
so
exists because we see it, feel it, perceive it.
yeah,
I always thought to myself, if I went to sleep and didn't wake up, would everything still exist? That's like the
right.
old philosophers'
Yeah.
quandary and questions
Yes. Yeah.
that
Is
we
it just our
ask.
perception? Is
Yeah,
life just our perception?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Is the
Yeah.
tree
So
the
I
tree in the
do think
forest?
it's really important for women if they find themselves, in that lonely or alone time, they have to make these efforts, and that's part of what our program is in searching out what their new purpose is. Maybe it's just shifted a little. Maybe it has to do with something they dreamed about when they were 17. Maybe, just I have a list of 60 again, 60 questions that people can journal a question every day in focusing on that, and hopefully at the end of that time it really will help a person narrow down what should they be doing right now. But also it is those relationships, and sometimes it's like to have good friends, we got to be a good friend, right? We have to take the initiative to reach out to
Yeah,
somebody to go to coffee, somebody
yeah.
to sit in church with,
Don't
somebody
become a
to
recluse.
yes, yes. I mean, that's huge. And even meeting spiritually regularly was a big factor in the longevity studies in all of them, that there was a spiritual life. And
Yep.
so getting together, whether it is church or whether it's like some small group or just a one-on-one thing, that's really important.
Relationship and connections with other
Yes.
human beings.
Mhm.
We need it like our vitamins, like our
Yes, we do. In
minerals
fact, the
for
latest
life.
studies I've seen on longevity have really been focusing on just that. I mean, the other stuff's important, of course, but that part of relationship, being
Yeah.
in relationship with people.
Yeah, we need to give and receive love. That's the basics at the end
Yeah.
of the day, isn't it? That
Yes,
gives us our energy, our life force, our reason, our raison d'être, our reason to be.
right.
Yeah, we
Right.
get up in the morning, and just, enjoying your family. And I'm a grandmother now, and
Okay,
I'm
great.
really
How
enjoying.
many kids do you have?
So I have four altogether, and two of them have young children. So I've got
Okay.
three
Wonderful.
grandchildren.
Wow.
And they're so cute. They're like ages 2 to 6,
Yeah.
and they're just full of life and wonderment and excitement. And I'm in their space, and that like ignites this flame in me. I just
I
feel
bet.
so much joy sharing their joy of life. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a whole rekindling, and it's really different to being a parent. I must say, I'm enjoying it a lot more
That's
in a
pretty
way.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very freeing. And that's what I also meant to ask you, the sense of freedom when you don't have the obligations you used to do, and you don't have to get on that treadmill anymore. Now you
Mm-hmm.
have to create your own different routine and thing to
You
do
do.
where someone's not there with a whip, and you have to do this, or you can't
Right.
pay the rent next week, or that kind of life. That's all gone usually, hopefully. That you
Mm-hmm.
don't have those pressures anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
so we get like freed up a little bit. But
Yes, which is beautiful. Hmm.
yeah, and that's hard conceptually for a lot of people to take, because they've been so used to, I have to do this,
I know.
and they can't move out of the lifestyle of have to I choose to.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, that's just I think to really live that full life, we are in such an incredible position right now to really live a full life. I mean, we've been in that survival mode for, all those decades, and now we have room to think, right? I love Elizabeth Gilbert's, she's got a book called Big Magic, and she's like, leave room for the magic. Like when you're trying to decide and search out what do I want to sink my teeth into for this next decade or 5 years or whatever it is, allow some time to just think and just
Yep. Be.
meditate, just be right.
Smell the
You
flowers.
Smell the flowers. I mean, one of the options for the brain work choices is called, I call it create, and it's like doing some kind of art making or creative outlet, like for your personal self, for the purpose of just sort of de-stressing.
Yeah.
Not I'm not talking about going out and selling it or anything, but just like for me, I love to needlepoint. Yeah, I don't let myself do it till the end of the day after I've done the
Yep.
things I need to do, but I can sit and needlepoint and listen to an audiobook or
Yep.
binge watch something on TV or whatever, and it feels productive. It
Yep.
turns out to be beautiful.
There's
I
there's a kind
put
of
them on my walls.
zen, is the zen
Yes,
of it, isn't it? You get
yes,
involved and focused, and it's a creative pursuit,
yes.
which I think is really like
Finding
vitamins and
something
minerals.
like that is
Something
huge.
creative. Yeah, yeah,
Yes. And everybody's creative.
yep,
There's so many ideas. And I just started that a few years ago. So
yeah,
I think doing something like that's really fun and
yeah.
important.
Find your fun and experiment with new things.
Yes, for
So
sure.
so we're coming to the end. If you can let people know where they can find you or how to buy your book.
Yes, yes. Well, it's certainly on Amazon, but it's everywhere. Books are sold, Barnes Noble, all the places. Um, and then my website is my name, AllisonMcCune-Davis.com. And you can find the link to the 60-day dare there if you want to join us or check that out. And then I'm on Instagram, my name again, so that, and Facebook, but those two
Yeah.
places, other places too, but those are the main two.
Yeah, it's good to stay connected with a tribe of people that are positive,
Yes.
uplifting, have a good
Yes.
energy, have
It's
good
important, I
strategies.
think, daily to be
Wish,
listening to
yeah,
that
it's a
something uplifting.
it's about sharing the good stuff. And then there's an upward spiral that it then compounds and then more good stuff comes.
Hmm.
It's the opposite to that downward spiral where one negative leads to another negative.
Right.
So we have to turn it around, and we can choose to turn it around just with the right strategies coming from the right people, such
Right,
as
right, right.
yourself.
Super true.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing your wisdom with the
Yeah,
Body
thank
Charge
you. It's so
podcast.
great to be here with you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.
I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electromagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.